In this video, we're going to be going over the Tuesday column for the Week 7 independent practice, Week 7 homework. And the Tuesday column asks us to solve some equations, which luckily we've been working with for a while now if you're just now watching this video. And so hopefully you feel a little bit more comfortable now with solving equations if you didn't during the time that this homework was due. Now, during this homework, I'm going to randomly give out a word that I need you to write down at the end of the column. So at the very bottom of the page, and that word will let me know that you truly watched the video rather than just looked at the answers, because I will be providing you with the majority of the answers, and so I need to ensure that you are watching the video. Okay, so for the Tuesday column, we need to solve for x in our equation here, and you can see that we have a bit of a distributive property at the beginning to start with, but I want to show you how you can solve out these equation problems that require the distributive property, which means that they have a number outside of the parentheses without having to do the distributive property. So actually getting rid of that number on the outside first. Now, something that we've learned about equations is that you can do anything you want to one side as long as you do it to the other side. So if I wanted to get rid of this -3, turn it into a 1, then what I could do is I could divide the left side by -3, which means I'll have to divide the right side by -3. And when you divide the left side by -3, the top -3 and the bottom -3 will cancel out to equal 1. And then you still have 2x plus 5 left over. And we're going to set that equal to our new number of a positive 10. Now, that 1 that's on the outside that we just set, that if we were to distribute it out into the numbers in the parentheses, it's still just going to be 2x plus 5. So by dividing both sides by -3 at first, that allowed us to get rid of that -3 on the outside and then just have the quantity inside of the parentheses left over, as you can see here. And then after that, it just becomes a two-step equation. We want to get rid of the fake friend first, so we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. That's going to leave me with 2x is equal to positive 5. And then lastly, I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And then that's going to get me x is equal to 2.5. If you take 5 and you divide it by 2, that leaves you with 2.5. So hopefully that's something that will help you out with the rest of these problems, utilizing that trick where we're going to get rid of the numbers outside of the parentheses first. So let's take a look at the second one. In our second number, we don't have a integer on the outside. An integer is a whole number. We have a rational number, so a fraction on the outside. But you can still get rid of that fraction either by dividing it by itself, or what we've practiced multiple times now is that we can multiply a fraction by its reciprocal in order to turn it into a 1. Because 2 times 1 will be 2, 1 times 2 will be 2, and 2 divided by 2 simplifies into 1. And we still have 2x plus 8. And we're going to set that equal to 12 also multiplied by 2 over 1, which is really just 12 multiplied by 2, which is now going to give me 24. If I distribute these values out, you can see that I just have 2x plus 8 left over. And then to solve for x, I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides, because you want to get rid of the fake friend first. So if you have to choose between the 2 and the 8 that are on the same side as the variable, you want to get rid of the number that's not attached. That's considered the fake friend, because it's not hanging out or attached to the x like the 2 would be. When you subtract 2 from both sides, that leaves you with 2x is equal to 16. And then the final step that you'll have to take is to get rid of that 2 is to divide both sides by 2, which will leave you with x is equal to 8. Now, I want to remind you just real quickly that if you take this number here, 8, and you plug it into x over here, when you simplify that left side down, that is multiplying 2 times 8, and then adding this 8, and then multiplying by a half, that's going to give you 12, which is the reason we're solving for that x is we want to know what number do we have to plug into this equation so that when you simplify it down, it equals 12. And the only number that will do that is the number 8. Okay, at the end of the column, I would like you to write down the word pen, P-E-N. Okay, so for the next one, we've got -1/3 being multiplied by the quantity of 12x minus 5 is equal to 8/3. Let's see what we did on the last problem. We had 1/2 on the outside, which was a fraction, just like this fraction, and we multiplied by its reciprocal, 2/1. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to multiply 1/2 by -3/1. And notice that I also have a negative because I want to cancel out the negative that's over there. So I'm going to multiply both sides by -3/1. That's going to cancel out to leave me with 12x minus 5 on the left side. And then on the right side, if you cross simplify, then 3 and this 3 will turn into a 1 and a -1. And then when you multiply across, now you have 8 times -1, which is -8, over 1 times 1, which is just going to be 1. So we're just going to leave our answer as -8. So hopefully you're getting into a little bit of practice with cross simplifying also to make the process a little quicker for you. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to add 5 to both sides because we want to get rid of that -5. So we're going to add 5 to both sides. That's going to leave me with 12x is equal to a -3. And then our final step, divide both sides by 12 to get the x by itself. And it's going to leave me that x is equal to -3/12, or simplifies into -1/4. Or you might have also put it as 0.25 if you did it on your own. All right, so hopefully you're feeling a little more fluent now. I'm going to leave this next one to you. Just a hint, I want you to divide both sides by -10 first, and that's going to leave you with the quantity on the inside, the quantity here left over, and then the number on the outside, on the right side is going to be a new number. And then I also want to remind you that when you get your answer as a -x, that you're going to have to turn that -x into a positive x by multiplying both sides by -1. I also want you to write down the word paper underneath the word pen at the bottom. I want you to write down the word paper underneath the word pen. Okay, the last one that we've got 1/4 multiplied by the quantity of 2x plus 3 is equal to 7/8. So I want to get rid of that 1/4. What do I do to get rid of 1/4? I'm going to multiply by 4, because that's the reciprocal of 1/4. 4 times 1/4 is going to cancel out to equal 1. 2x plus 3 is equal to, I'm going to cross simplify a little bit here, 2, 1, 7 times 1 over 2. Okay, so I ended up with a fraction. Not necessarily what I would like. You could either leave it as a fraction or you could turn it into a decimal, whichever you prefer. If you might recognize that 7 divided by 2, or 7 over 2, simplifies to 2.5 as a decimal. It's because half of 7 is, 3.5. Half of 7 is 3.5. And then now we just solve out using our regular two-step equation process, which is taking away the fake friend first. It's going to leave you with 2x is equal to 0.5. And then now dividing both sides by a positive 2 leaves you with x is equal to, and then let's figure out what that new value is going to be. 0.5 divided by 2. It's going to go in 0 times. Bring the decimal. It's going to go in 2 times. Remainder of 1, add a 0. It's going 5 times. Remainder of 0. Which makes sense because half of 0.5 or half of 50 cents would be 25 cents. So we're going to put that our answer is 0 and 25 hundredths.